Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel. Congratulations are in order. This is a special episode to Colin Simmons, yet another national award winner on Christmas Day. We just found out the Maxwell Award group just announced that Colin Simmons has won the National Freshman of the Year, the Shaun Alexander Award. And here's video of Shaun Alexander making the phone call to Colin Simmons on Christmas Day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Shaun Alexander, about to call the seventh Shaun Alexander Freshman Player of the Year. It's our seventh award winner. You want to know who it is? All right, you got to wait. What up, Colin?
What's down with it, dog?
I'm chilling, man. How you doing?
Blessed, dog. Just pulled up to my auntie house.
Beautiful.
Waiting on her to come out so I can tell her to give her a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, too. You know what it means if I call you on Christmas Day, don't you?
What that mean?
It means it means congratulations. You are the seventh Freshman Player of the Year. Congratulations. You are Shaun Alexander, the seventh time Freshman Player of the Year. It is you, man. I got you on film. You know what I mean? Filming you right now. Congratulations. Man, you are everything. How you doing, Mama?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm congratulating your son. I'm doing great. I'm congratulating your son for becoming the Freshman Player of the Year. He just won. Yep. It is the closest margin victory. Yeah, it's the closest victory we've ever had, between him and a couple guys. We had 5 really great finalists, and everybody Colin won by narrow margins, but he's everything we want to be the representative of the Freshman Player of the Year. So, Colin, y'all got to hold on. I got to tell the cameras that we got it. But, Mama, it's great to meet you. Colin, congratulations again. Y'all hold on. Maxwell Club, thank you all for y'all's great effort. Everybody part of the Shaun Alexander Freshman Award team, thank you all. We got a great one. We'll talk to you soon.
That's great stuff, CJ. Thanks for pulling that up for us. Another national award, Gerry. Whether it was Kelvin Banks with the Outland and the Lombardi, we had Jade Barron with the Thorpe. Gerry, what do you think about Colin Simmons, young man out of Duncanville, doing it right?
There's some awards that are cheap awards. This is not one of them. This was in a great freshman class in college football. You beat out in a voting by writers and us and coaches. You beat out Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, Ryan Williams at Alabama, Dylan Stewart, an edge at South Carolina, who had a phenomenal year, and Coy Paris, the guy that wasn't highly ranked coming out of high school that went and had a great year for Minnesota. This is not falling into award. This is earning an award. You're the leading sacks. You lead the nation in sacks for freshmen, and that means you lead the SEC for a freshman in sacks. You earn this award because these are all future first rounders you just beat.
I'm going to tell this to CJ. Go pitch this to CJ. Final stats for Colin Simmons, and I think CJ probably has some more detailed ones, but 39 tackles on the year, 8 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, 9 QB hurries, and 1 interception. That's a full year's work for a true freshman that didn't even start, guys. Didn't even start compared to Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver, and Ryan Williams, the wide receiver out of Ohio State and Alabama, respectively. Dylan Stewart, Gerry mentioned, Coy Paris. The other thing I wanted to mention, CJ and Gerry, you mentioned this not being a light award. Let me tell you, this is only the 7th award, right? For this, let me give you the names of some of the other guys that have won this award. Trevor Lawrence, first-round pick, right? Will Anderson, first-round pick. Drake May, first-round pick. Brock Bowers, first-round pick. Caleb Downs last year will be a first-round pick. CJ, what do you think of this award for the Longhorns?
Yeah, you talk about a full slate of stats and seasons worth of moments. I mean, if it weren't for, maybe a bad bounce against Georgia, you probably have a fumble 6 results by Colin Simmons. He had a sack against Michigan, one of those big coming out parties there as well. And then, of course, the interception against Clemson. So big moments. I know that the snap count might not indicate a true starter, but you could argue he's one of the 5 or 6 most impactful players when on the field for the entire Texas team. And this award certainly, I would say, stamps that. But Texas fans should be really, really excited for the next 2 years if he's doing this already. And what I would say about 30, 35 snaps per game. My goodness, the ceiling very high for Colin Simmons.
Gerry, we talk about this with Colin Simmons, CJ. We talk about him a lot of times. This is indicative of what we've discussed. Texas would have 5 stars come into the program and then not play like 5 stars. We've seen what Kelvin Banks has done, coming into the 5-star, leaves as a 5-star. This is what Steve Sarkisian preaches, and it should help him as he goes on the road recruiting and even in the transfer portal, right? Because he's developing players.
Yeah, for those that don't believe in must-get recruits, do you believe now? That's all I got to ask the fan base, because he would have won this award at LSU if he wasn't at Texas. And LSU's season probably would have gone different than it did, and would Texas' season be where it is? Totally the same. These guys matter. Jeremiah Smith matters for Ohio State. I mean, there's a select few guys, but no. And look, DFW, Duncanville High School, all the pressure that came when Steve Sarkisian and Jeff Banks, who was obviously one of his first hires, got to Austin, was how poorly Texas had been doing in DFW area under Tom Herman, the previous staff. They had to flip that. And the move to the SEC, Colin Simmons only at Texas because you moved to the SEC. He wasn't going to play in the Big 12. So this is a monumental 5-star from DFW, from the power program. You beat out all SEC schools for him. He comes to Texas. He doesn't disappear for 2 years. He just won the Shaun Alexander National Freshman of the Year award in a season in which Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams and Dylan Stewart, any of the 4 could have won it, and you just said, yeah, that guy was deserving. I mean, you beat out deserving players. And I'll say this, too, for the history from the Texas side. 3rd all-time in sacks as a freshman, behind Tim Campbell, 1975, and Tony Bracken's. Tim Campbell had 13 and 75. Tony Bracken's 10 and 93. There's been a lot of guys come since Tony Bracken's, and Colin Simmons just zipped by all of them.
CJ, you look at this and you think about this award for the Longhorns. First time a freshman has won the Shaun Alexander Award for the university. Only an award, only 7 years old. Your thoughts on what it means for Texas, in your opinion?
Well, it's huge, right? And we've talked about it in the past. Texas has gotten freshmen on the field early, but not necessarily always in a luxurious position, right? I think Colin Simmons coming in and being able to play 30 snaps a game while splitting time with Barron Sorrell and Trey Moore and Ethan Burke, that means that you're getting the best 30, 35 snaps out of them, right? In years past, you've seen Texas throw freshmen into spots where, hey, you're in a tough situation because you're playing 80 to 90% of the snaps. You're not necessarily used to your strengths, but also because there just isn't anyone else that Texas can use at the time. With the depth, I don't know if Colin gets there with a full 50 snap workload every single game. Maybe he does. Maybe that's just the player he is. But when you're able to use 100% of your effort on just those snaps, the way that Texas was able to utilize him this year, it looks pretty darn good by the end of the season. When you got 8 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and a pick, you're in those right spots, and that workload's only going to increase. But it also speaks to recruits moving forward. You come in, you earn a job, you get your role. Hey, Texas is going to put you in a pretty good spot to be successful. Look at Jarrett Gibson. Look at Ryan Wingo. Plenty of other cats that you could point to from just this year alone, with already a pretty solid history of Steve Sarkisian utilizing freshmen since he's arrived in Austin.
Bobby, can I add this?
Yeah, absolutely.
5-star Kelvin Banks comes in, starts as a true freshman, leaves with an Outland and Lombardi. Cedric Baxter comes in from Orlando as a starting running back as a true freshman in game 1. To CJ's point, guys just aren't coming to Austin and developing over time. They're coming out and also making an impact and developing over a short period of time as well. So it couldn't, for Steve Sarkisian and his recruiting efforts, I mean, it couldn't be going any better right now, because when your highly ranked guys, and Cedric Baxter had the injury, but when your highly ranked guys hit the field early and go on to win awards, Kelvin Banks is going to be a first-round pick. Heck, Cam Williams might be a first-round pick. We'll have to see on that. But guys are developing and living out their dreams at the highest level now. That matters in recruiting.
I've got to add this. You said Kelvin Banks and C.J. Baxter. Let's go back even a year further. Xavier Worthy,
Yep.
5-star, gets on the field, very first game, starts every game of his career at the University of Texas. So Sark's not, even though it's getting harder, I think, to break the lineup at Texas, and we saw that this year where, it was really Colin Simmons and Ryan Wingo were the two freshmen that got the two true freshmen that really broke into the lineup. It's getting harder now because Texas is becoming a better team. That doesn't mean the amount of impact they have is reduced necessarily. To CJ's point, even with fewer snaps, you're still can have this really, really heavy impact on it. Guys, I've got to ask you, were y'all surprised that it was Colin Simmons here? I mean, Jeremiah Smith was on TV every week, and is a great player for Ohio State. No question asked. Ryan Williams made some highlight plays. Maybe the offensive players kind of counteracted one another and took votes away and helped Colin go to the top. What do y'all think?
I was a little surprised because Jeremiah Smith, because he was such a marquee player. So every weekend you turn on SportsCenter, you saw Jeremiah Smith being featured in a top 10 or a play during the game. So I was, but I will tell you what it does. It tells me is how much respect the SEC still has. Because Colin Simmons, those numbers in the SEC, I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, man, the guy had 8 sacks. But you sit there and say, and CJ has the snaps. He had 39 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles. He had the interception and sack in the SEC championship game, which I do think helped him. But I was surprised just because Jeremiah Smith was so visible from before the season all the way through the season on all your social media platforms and your ESPNs and your Foxes. I was surprised.
That was probably the one guy for me that I probably would have had in the most contention with Colin Simmons for. It was Jeremiah Smith. Again, it's the way that he was doing it. 1,037 yards in year one at Ohio State. That's pretty impressive, especially when the kind of consensus around Ohio State is they took a step back at quarterback from what they've seen over the last 5 to 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. But Colin, again, to what we were talking about earlier, the big games, he stepped up. The forced fumble that was basically a 20-yard loss in the SEC championship game. He had the interception against Clemson in the college football playoff. You go on the road in your second game ever, you get a sack and really 3 tackles for loss against Michigan. I think that was the coming out party. And then you see the individual flashes. And for Texas specifically, when you compare him edge to edge with Dylan Stewart, look, he's on the field 150 snaps less this year than Dylan Stewart. More sacks, more tackles for loss. And really, I think the most underrated part of all of this, you see him coming off the edge in one of those kind of read option design plays where he has responsibility on both the quarterback and the running back. Oh, my goodness. It's like a bolt of lightning, and he makes the right read seemingly every time because of that speed.
It's almost like he swallows them. Let's talk about that. Is it his ball get off? Rod talks about his BGO, ball get off, all the time that makes him special. I think it's his body lean. I think it's his long arms, his quickness, all of those things, athleticism, toughness a little bit. I mean, he's tougher maybe than people give him credit for as well. Gerry, what makes him a special player?
I think it's all those things. And then I think it's the physicality on top of it. I mean, he hit Gunnar Stockton so hard the ball went out of bounds from the opposite hash. I mean, like, it's doing it against top competition, doing it against those offensive linemen are going to be draft picks. But I think it's all that what you said, Bobby. And, he's got the best. He's not as long of a frame guy. Maybe not. He's not as quite as big, but he's got the best first, second BGO I've seen for a freshman in college football since Jadeveon Clowney. And I'm not saying he is Jadeveon Clowney. But what'll be interesting following the rest of his career, guys, is does he love the game more than Jadeveon Clowney did? Because if he does, sky's the limit.
Yeah, let me add this on Colin. Look, the work ethic I don't think has been talked enough about. This is a guy that came in, and we saw him in Orlando, Gerry. He wasn't where he was day one of spring football, right? We talked about he added 20 pounds, it said on the Texas roster, and then you see him, you say, okay, yeah, he did add 20 pounds. But even beyond that, Texas, whenever they come out for pregame warmups, right, it's normally some quarterbacks, some wide receivers, the specialists, some punt returners, whatever it is. They come out about 75 to 90 minutes before the game. They get their work in. They go off the field. You see some offensive linemen, defensive linemen, edges come out, do some band work, throw some medicine balls around. Colin Simmons is always the last person off the field beforehand, and he's just sitting on right around the 30, 45-yard line, just getting hand work, right? What's he doing with the hands? It looks like a boxer punching the bags from his trainer. He does that every single game, and he's always the last guy off the field, runs back in, gets suited up, comes out for normal pregame warmups. But I've noticed that over the last 4 or 5 games or so, and it's always kind of, maybe it's just trying to fine tune things, but that's just the work ethic that he has, and it's paid off.
You want some perspective? You want some perspective? I just looked this up. I couldn't remember. Remember when you saw Jadeveon Clowney as a freshman? You're like, oh my gosh, look at this guy. You know what his freshman stats were? 36 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 5 forced fumbles. Colin Simmons is right there with him, freshman year through, and that was 13 games for Clowney. Right there with him. That's the perspective on how good Colin Simmons has been in limited snaps this year.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Congratulations to Colin Simmons, as well as his family. It was great to hear from Shaun Alexander earlier there. Thank you to the Maxwell Award for letting us use that video. All right, for CJ Vogel and Gerry Hamilton, as well as our producer, Matt Hudson, I'm Bobby Burton. Excuse me. One last thing. Colin Simmons, hook him, buddy.